Alright, so where do I even begin? Let's talk about why Smite 2 came into existence. Smite 1 obviously had its fair share of problems. The game had been trending downwards for probably years before Smite 2 came out. Hi-Rez needed to do something. Smite 1 was like literally spaghetti code built on a dead engine, like an old engine. So rebuilding the game into something new made sense. So I believe it was at one of the SWCs. It was the last SWC, I believe. They announced Smite 2, and they came out with honestly a pretty good trailer, in my opinion. The music was, whatever, but I mean, look at the comment section on this. Besides those who commented after the game came out, what we got did not look or feel anything like the trailer. So I think my biggest complaint is Smite 2 blatantly feels like a downgrade in polish. Smite 1 had been refined over, like, literally over a decade. It came out in 2013. So, like, your animations, your ability interactions, the auto attack cancels, movement kits, cues, the interactions, etc. They'd been iterated on in Smite 1 forever. They had built this over, like I said, like a decade. And Smite 2 took this and rebuilt it into UE5, Unreal Engine 5, which introduced a lot of situations that just feel worse than they did in Smite 1. So you hear people complain about things like abilities having slightly different delays or auto attack cancels feeling worse. Oh man, auto attack cancels. Feels bad, man. Certain gods feeling clunky, the movement and animation changes. And that's a massive problem for a game like Smite. On top of the god roster, literally being lobotomized and then slowly reintroduced into the game, there's no new hype for gods who's basically everybody who's played the prequel has already played and seen. Some people for hundreds of hours on a single god, which kind of leads me into my second point. They also took all of the items that they had been working on and developing for a very long time and rebuilt all of them. One of the key features of Smite 2 was the physical and magical split was removed, and gods can use every item in the pool. And then on top of that, the aspects also providing ways to modify your god. The aspects, like 80% of them, just feel like a straight up downgrade. And I will concede that you can literally build both intelligence and strength items, thus there are more items you can build on one god. But the design of Smite 2 fundamentally pushes you not to do this. I don't have actual numbers for this, but something probably like 70% of the gods literally either only have intelligence or strength scaling built into their abilities. So there's no situation in the current design where you could play a god like Opwash and build any strength item and have your performance be better than if you just bought another intelligence item. And because most characters are designed like this, new players are going to see a ton of items they should never even consider building on their god, and will be much worse because of this. They'll probably have a lot less fun and be completely overwhelmed looking at 100 items, and there's like, I don't, this is probably generous, but like 20 items that they should maybe consider buying. Maybe. They didn't need to copy other MOBAs, you know, with the item combination building, whatever it's called. Whenever I play League of Legends, I don't think, wow, this item is so much cooler because I built a ton of random stuff and I got Infinity Blade. The tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 system was fine because at the end of the day, the finished item is all you care about. To me at least, the path I got there is kind of arbitrary. My next point is it lost basically all of Smite 1's personality that it has. This is a harder to quantify complaint. Smite 1 was messy. There were weird builds, weird god interactions, stupid strategies, like Lotus Crown, raw, spam healing the minions, trying to push the minions under towers, making them unkillable in duels, stuff like that. And your gods could feel extremely specialized, but a lot of veteran players, myself included, loved that chaos. I loved loading into a game as Anubis, and I get hit for 1,000 damage. I press Plague of Locust, bam, I am instantly full health. They didn't have anti-heal. Stuff like that is just, that's what I wish Smite 2 still had. Smite 2 is trying to create, a more modern competitive meta with greater systematic flexibility, but it just feels more sterile. And my next point is going to be the monetization. This is probably the biggest non-gameplay problem, like by far. Most Smite 1 players had spent years, some over a decade, and potentially thousands of dollars collecting their skins or whatever other cosmetics or loading frames, your Grandmaster frames, your Master frames, whatever else. And then Smite 2 came along, and they were basically just like, yeah, your collection isn't coming with you. Legacy gems, were intended to partially compensate players, but, the exchange rates, like, I think it was something like 200 gems became 400 legacy gems, but 400 legacy gems went a lot less distance than 200 gems in Smite 1 did. And it also just doesn't feel equivalent to owning the skins you literally already purchased. Most people just feel like, I don't want currency, I want the stuff I already bought. And I think this is the core of the whole controversy. Imagine if somebody took your 10-year-old character in MMO and said, we're making the game better, we're rebuilding it from scratch. And then you log in, your character is not there, all of your favorite stuff isn't there, your cosmetics aren't there, your favorite mechanics are changed, the game feels shittier, the new game has fewer characters, it has new bugs. Oh, and also you need to spend a ton of money again. So to sum it up, the biggest reason many players, or at least for me, feel Smite 2 is worse than Smite 1 is because it replaced an extremely polished, content-rich game with a remake that still feels like it's rebuilding what players already had. The smaller god roster, missing content, changed mechanics, clunkier interactions, the controversial monetization made it difficult for veterans to feel like they gained something from this transition. Even some of Smite 2's advertised improvements, like the removal of the physical and magical item split, it doesn't make more meaningful choices. Most gods are still locked into either strength or intelligence scaling. So most of the expanded item pool consists of options that are technically available, but like actually dog shit. This can make the game feel more complicated for new players, and growth is, something Smite 2 was supposed to do, without giving them proportionally more meaningful build decisions. Ultimately, my criticism isn't that Smite 2 is inherently a terrible game. I actually think it's still pretty fun to play. It's that after sacrificing so much of Smite 1, Smite 2 hasn't demonstrated that the trade-off was worth it. And this is coming from somebody who spent even part of my childhood playing this game, and I genuinely hope Hi-Rez makes some better decisions. But yeah, that's about it.